Okay, and we're live. Hi, everyone. This is episode 23 of the Technology for Good show. Thanks for joining us. For anyone joining us from the US, happy Independence Day. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us today. Our guest on the show today is Theo Priestley. Theo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Theo Priestley. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist at Software AG.
And who are Software AG, Theo?
Software AG is a large enterprise software company. We're on the grand scale of the same as IBM, SAP, Oracle, and we provide enterprise software, cloud integration, business process management, and we're really rocking the space right now.
And where is Software AG based?
We're based in Darmstadt, so we have a headquarters in Darmstadt. We have global offices in about 70 odd countries. I myself, I'm in, although you can't see it, it's sunny London.
That's a strong London accent you don't have there.
Yeah, it's the same as your Zimbabwean accent, Tom. Yeah, so I'm originally from Scotland, as if you couldn't tell.
A fellow Gael, excellent.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. We'll hit into the stories, Theo.
Yep.
The first one that I wanted to bring up, I should preface it, I guess, by saying that there actually weren't that many stories this week. It was interesting. I didn't come across as many as normal, but I guess part of that is probably down to the fact that people were holding off on releases, given that it is the 4th of July. So it was always going to be a slow week. But this one I thought was interesting. Came out yesterday. It's on the Think Progress site, their climate portion of the site, and it says that the Energy Department in the US has just announced $4 billion for projects that fight global warming. That's pretty cool. It's a loan guarantee program of up to $4 billion to support innovative renewable energy and energy efficiency projects to avoid, reduce, or sequester greenhouse gas emissions. So. It's always nice when you come across stories like that. It would be better if they were grants, but they're loans. So what are you going to do? What are we in year 6 or year 7 of the Obama administration, and he's getting around to doing something. It's taken a long time. I mean, he was elected first term out with a lot of backing on the climate front. Didn't manage to do a whole lot first term, but now he seems to be getting his act together and actually doing something. Jump in there, Theo.
I think it's interesting on a couple of fronts. One is the fact that it's happening, given the amount of naysayers that there are. I'm surprised that it's actually got a figure attached to it as well, which is good. I'd like to understand what these projects turn out to be. It does hint at these in the article itself in terms of renewable energy and obviously making it a little bit more smarter and how technology can help
storage technologies as well.
Consumption. Yeah, I think it would be good to actually track this story and actually that the department issuing this loan pushes out updates to tell us specifically where the money is going and what the projects are. And allowing the public to almost have a say, or actually to be able to track themselves the progress and the success of that money. Because, firstly, an admission that there is a global warming impact to actually counteract with money is an investment is I don't know. It's a nice.
Oops, sorry about that. Someone's disagreeing with you there outside. Hey.
I think it's nice. It's almost a half admission that a problem does exist, and we will address it with some money. I think the critical aspect is where is that money going? What are the projects specifically? What are they intended to deliver? And what are the actual benefits? Treat it like a business case, if you will, a mini business case for every project that they want to actually spend this money on.
And, in fairness, they did a reasonable enough job of that with the ARRA program that they rolled out back in 2009, I think it was. Right. They did publish all of the investments there, and they tracked them. And there were some that did very well, and there were some that did really badly. Tesla was one of the ones who did well and paid back their loan ahead of time. There were a couple of noted failures too. So I guess we'll have something similar with this one as well. Reasonably good tracking. Some great successes, and they won't all come good.
From a manufacturing or sort of larger utilities angle, if you want to look at the fuel side, or certainly for electricity, I think it would be interesting if they, I guess they give the public the ability, so like the way that Google and Nest and all these, and Hive and things like that, if there are initiatives that tie and support the consumer side of the utility angle in with some of these projects to allow people to affect the outcome as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of that kind of thing, the next story I came across was this one. GE announcing a $15 connected LED light bulb controlled by the Wink app. The Wink app is obviously an app you can download from the App Store. The light bulb is pretty impressive in that it is, as I say, $15. The next nearest one that I'm aware of would be kind of the Philips Hue bulb, which comes in around $40, I'm going to say. And there's the LifeX one as well, which started off as a crowdsourced bulb. And Cree, C-R-E-E, have LED bulbs as well, in or around the $30, $40 price as well. So this GE one at $15 is, it blows them out of it in terms of price. GE bulbs in general, in terms of quality, are very good. I think the temperature, this one's going to be around 2700 Kelvin, which is kind of warm white. And the fact that it is connected and controllable from an application from your smart device, it's impressive. I gotta say, I'm amazed they managed to pull this off for $15.
Yeah, the price point on these things is always going to be the most critical for, I guess, consumer adoption.
Yeah, and 15 is competitive with CFLs almost.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many people are actually going to take these things up. I did read somewhere that it was either a very loose-based survey, but people just weren't interested in being able to control light bulbs through their smartphones and things like that, when they could just reach across and switch it off on the wall. But I guess there's an education piece that needs to be done, because obviously if the most rudimentary timers that people have right now are when it switches on, when it switches off, before and after they come to work.
Yeah. But I think as well, Theo, that what you're going to start to see happening is devices like this will start to be tied in with other devices, and you'll get your idea of your full connected home. So it'll be the whole home becomes almost a platform. So, and it'll be geofenced. So you bring your phone with you, you walk out of home, and as soon as you're 2 minutes from home, the lights go down automatically because you've gone outside the geofence area. Or the converse, as you get closer to home, the lights come up, the AC comes on or goes off, or whatever it is you've programmed to have happen happens. And in that way, you're saving money on not having lighting on, not having AC on, that kind of stuff. So, the whole thing is that you're right. The vast majority of people don't want to be getting out their phones to turn off and on the lights, but it's the idea of automating everything and making it simple for people to do these things. I think when that happens, then you get widespread adoption.
I think if we have a hub and a hub model, then that's when it's going to work. Because right now, I mean, if you think about it, you have a Nest app for your heating or a Hive app for your heating. You have one for your lights, all that kind of sort of thing. So until you have one hub that actually allows you to control many different devices, and they've all got their own protocols. I think Nest is starting to be opened up, whereas before it was proprietary. I think that's the key as well, is that we can't have too many proprietary things and mesh networks, and one thing only talks to, they've got to talk to each other as well. So it's not just through Bluetooth, but Wi-Fi, but anything else.
Yeah, we're at very early days of connected homes. As you say, the different proprietary protocols. It's a mess. It's a complete mess. It's like the browser wars of the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So once we achieve standardization, things will kick off a lot faster. The next thing I saw, speaking of kind of standardization, is the Microsoft Office for Android. Microsoft is bringing out a version of its Office well, it's seeking testers at the moment as it gets the tablet version of Office for Android ready. It's already brought it out for iOS, so now we're looking at an Android version coming out, and one that is apparently going to be halfway decent. It's it's the new Microsoft, I want to say, under Satya Nadella, the new CEO. They've become far more open, and there's another story about this that we'll get to in a minute. But they're doing the whole embrace and extend rather than the previous thing of keeping to themselves. We had a story last week where they brought out the new Android phone. So they brought out a new phone based on Android.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing out a version of Office for Android, and that's even before they bring out the Windows version of it. So
yeah, I saw that in the article as well.
Yeah, it's I guess they got to go where the users are.
So when Satya was, I think Satya is doing, he's accelerating almost the wiping away of the Balmer era, if you will. So he had his time, and he's almost like one of the pharaohs trying to wipe out any mention of him on the pyramids, and he's rewriting history very, very quickly because they have got a serious amount of catching up to do. And I think it's interesting, and it's quite telling as well that they're building this for iOS and they've done it for Android before they've done Windows, because I don't know whether that's a statement that they just don't believe in the Surface side as much. So they've had 3 attempts at building Surface, and none of them have been particularly successful. Yeah. And I wonder if they are actually just saying, well, do you know what? Yeah, let's build it for the popular platforms because we know people will buy it there first, and we know that's where the proliferation is from the consumer and the business market, and we'll just worry about our strategy for our product, further down the line, because let's make some money on this first.
Yeah, no, I remember giving a presentation to Microsoft EMEA, and it was back in September 2006 in Zurich. And it was a big internal meeting. I was the only outside speaker brought in. And what I said to them then was, guys, you own the Office space. It's yours to lose, because this was the time when Google were coming in with their Google Apps and Docs. And as well as that, this was the time when Apple had just brought out their first laptop running on an Intel chip. They just started to move away from the Motorola chipset onto the Intel chipset. So you had those 2 things happen, and suddenly the adoption of Apple devices was increasing. They could now run Windows on them with virtualization because they were on Intel chipsets. And you had Google Docs and spreadsheets coming in, taking over or at least challenging the dominance, the Microsoft dominance of the Office space. And I was saying, guys, look, really, you need to get your ass in gear on this. And it took them a while to get the message, but they're starting to get it now.
Yeah, do you use Office on Android or iOS yourself?
I don't. I don't use Microsoft Office. I use Google.
Okay.
RedMonk, we standardized years ago. We standardized on Google Docs and spreadsheets, and I have Office on my desktop, and I'll use it if I get an attachment or something that I have to open. But typically I'll just use, it's far more convenient to have everything online, and I've just gotten used to using the Google Docs and spreadsheets and not having to open an application, just do it through a browser.
Yeah, isn't it still subscription based as well for?
It is. I've forgotten how much the Google Docs and spreadsheets is. I want to say it's something like $50 per person per year, I think, for an enterprise subscription, I think.
Right. Is it still? I take it it's still a lot cheaper than the Office.
I presume so. I don't know what the Office pricing is. I haven't needed to look into that. But we decided in RedMonk we would go with the Google one, and there's no compelling reason to change away. I've got a crap load of stuff in Google on Drive in Google, and sure, I have it all exported. I have it in a Drive folder on my desktop and on my laptop. But I don't see any good reason to move away from it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll power on to the next story, and it is Hang on, hit start screen share. Come on, screen share. Okay, so the Akamai global average web speed is now up 24% annually to 3.9 megabits. 20% of connections now of 10 megabits per second, blah, 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 blah. Basically, what this is saying is that the internet's getting faster.
Yeah.
I had a look. I opened up the report, and there was a. Here we have a look at the. It's quite an in-depth report. This is page 29 of the report, for example, and on this page of the report, I'll blow this up a little there. You can see Switzerland, the Netherlands, Sweden. This is the EMEA region. Mm-hmm. They have US broken out by regions as well, and they have global averages. So you can check in the report all the different regions and see the speeds of them. What annoys me is that Spain is so far down the list because I'm based in Spain. Where I'm typically based in Spain, in Mairena in Seville, I have an upload speed of 600k. And that's the maximum upload speed there. It's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. And it's because there's just DSL available there. It's the most you can get. There's no fiber, there's no cable, there's nothing. You can get DSL, and that's it. This is in a populated area of Spain. Right now, for the month of July, I'm in Cadiz. And I'm now using a cable internet, and I've got a much better connection, thankfully. But at the end of the month, I'll be headed back to Seville again, and, you know,
it's painful. It's like going back to dial-up again, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, I get a few mice on a treadmill and have them power up the old modem. Oh God, I remember when I had my first iPhone. It was a 3GS. I didn't get the original iPhone. Oh right. Okay. And the case broke. I dropped it. It broke, and I contacted Apple, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's a design fault in the case. We'll come and collect it, and we'll bring you a new one. You'll be without a phone for about 2 days." And I said, "Okay," and great. It was all free, superb. So they did it, but for the 2 days I was without the phone. I had to go back to my old Nokia N95, and it was like going back to a green screen browser. It was like, oh my God, you know. So yeah, going back to Seville and the connectivity there, it's just going to be brutal at the end of the month. But the upside of the Akamai report is that things are getting faster globally, slowly, but they're getting faster.
I think the investment in the infrastructure is going to be key over the next couple of years to 5 years. I think, especially given, well, one for for mobile browsing anyway, which is a side thing, but two, because of the connectivity with the amount of smart devices that we're going to have, like going back to the old light bulb scenario, if we are starting to have a connected home, it's going to need a very fat pipe.
Yeah.
And it's just
you just got to look as well. There are several reports out that show the voice and the data graphs, and the voice traffic just flatline, and data is just your hockey stick. You know, it's incredible.
Well, I don't actually have a fixed landline at home anymore. Because
the only reason I do is I can only get DSL. That's the only reason I have a landline, is for DSL.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so I've got cable where I am, and this is the thing that kind of still annoys me about the UK, is that they still force you to have a landline even if you have cable or fibre. They still want you to give you a landline phone. There's a lot of archaic processes that are so for credit checks that are bound around the fact that you have a fixed landline number rather than mobile, because then they can still do credit checks on it and things like that. It's really bizarre, especially in financial services. But the fact that I'm forced to pay for it and I don't use it, because I carry my mobile phone where I go, and if I'm in Wi-Fi, I'll use a Wi-Fi connection to make Skype or FaceTime audio. So having a landline is I can see where the voice side is. In fact, I'm surprised the voice side is flatlining and it's not actually starting to dip.
It's still going up slightly, but it's almost a flat line, but it's going slightly up. But
right,
but I mean that's voice traffic on mobile.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on. The next story is slightly related, and it's around Qualcomm buying Wilocity. to put gigabit wireless connections in smartphones. There's not much more to say apart from that. The headline captures it all. Basically, Qualcomm are after buying a gigabit wireless specialist called Wilocity, and they're going to be behind this Y-Gig standard, this new Y-Gig standard. It's even got its own little logo there, the Y-Gig certified by Wi-Fi Alliance thing. But it's cute. Jesus, that kind of speed in a mobile, that's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. Again, do you trust the networks to actually invest in the infrastructure to give you it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be local at least. So it won't be. That'll be to a local device. It's like Wi-Fi as opposed to 4G.
4G.
Yeah. So
what I'd like to see actually, I guess you've still got some of the infrastructure for public Wi-Fi and things like that to be able to give you all of that access. I'd like to see that kind of advanced chip technology starting to go into cars and stuff like that. For the whole connected, the IoT side of things, because I know I read a report that. And I can't remember which chip manufacturers, they were actually struggling to get car manufacturers to embed their connectivity chips.
Really?
Yeah, because apparently the manufacturing and the rules around the manufacturing side are really more stringent than consumer-based devices. And I think it's because of cars and not just the value, but the fact that they transport people and stuff like that, and there's a lot more safety involved. And they were struggling. I think Hyundai was one manufacturer who was that they were trying to embed some of these chips into for car-to-car communication, and they were struggling to make the grade. So that's from a Qualcomm perspective, it would be interesting to see if they ever enter that and whether they encounter the same difficulties.
Yeah, I mean. A lot of American car manufacturers have had chips in them for quite a while, just to do the what's that? They have this service where you can tap a button on your dashboard and talk to an operator and.
Oh, BMW have that kind of thing.
OnStar, that's what it's called, the OnStar service. I mean. I guess I can see why in the US that was needed, because the US was a lot slower than the EU to pick up on mobile phones. Now we all have a mobile chip on us at all times. So there's probably not a need for a car manufacturer to put a mobile chip in a car when it can just use the one in your handset.
Yeah.
But yeah, the connected car space is one that we're seeing huge movement in that space in the last 6-12 months. I mean, Apple have got their car share, Google have got their Android version for cars as well, Android for Auto or something I think it's called, and saw that they're the only two platforms we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, I saw an interesting infographic that was predicting another platform war, and it was basically going to be based on the cars and the automobile manufacturing industry. For the same reason, you got Android, you got Apple, BMW will no doubt have their own eventually, that kind of thing. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out, because I gotta think, do you want to buy a car and have it stuck to a platform? Yeah.
I mean, you change phones every 1 or 2 years. You change cars every, I don't know, my car is 2008, so it's 6 years old now. And I don't see any reason, I've no desire to change it. It's doing perfectly fine. It's in great condition. So I'm not changing it anytime soon. If that was a BlackBerry car, for example. BlackBerry were big back in 2008. It could, if they had a platform back then, it could have been a BlackBerry car. I'd be screwed now. You know, so I think that whole car thing is gonna go lean in terms of OS. I think what will have to happen is the car manufacturers just have to sit back and support the OSs of the mobiles, because yeah, you're not going to want to tie anyone into an OS.
I'm sure Apple will try.
You know, true. Could you imagine the resale value of a BlackBerry car now?
You get more for the scrap metal.
Exactly. Oh dear. But we'll go on, and the next. Speaking of market shares of mobile platforms and things, we saw this a ComScore report coming out during the week, and they talked literally about this very thing. Apple, in terms of manufacturers, Apple's and this is US figures. Apple's at 41%, nearly 42%. Samsung is at almost 28%, and then there's everyone else in single digits, and that's the handset manufacturers. In terms of the software platforms, Android's at 52%, Apple's at 42%, and again, everyone else is in single digits. Mm-hmm. In terms of, and this was interesting, in terms of the smartphone apps that people are using, Facebook is on 76% of devices, followed by Google Play, which isn't surprising, YouTube, which is not that surprising either, Google Search, and then the next one was interesting, was Pandora Radio. That surprised me. And then you've got Google Maps, Gmail, Instagram, Yahoo, Facebook Messenger, Yahoo Weather, Apple Maps, and then at number 13 is Twitter. I would have thought Twitter would have been higher.
Yeah, the same, and LinkedIn isn't in there either.
Yeah.
It's interesting actually looking at the first set of maps, how everything seems to first set of figures, everything seems to be slowing down. If you notice the year-on-year sort of change, it's almost reached kind of sort of saturation point. And
but that's in the US. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in developing markets where you've got serious populations, China and India, for example, and even South America. I mean, there's huge populations there, and we're only talking 300 million in America.
And it's the same with, I guess you could say the same with the African nations as well. So they've been using, you know, they're actually, it's quite interesting because they're very advanced in terms of like mobile payments, for example, but they don't use smartphones for it. You know, it's based on the old SMS technology. Now, there's a market penetration there for if the cost of entry for a smartphone was low enough, I could see a massive big shift going from the older technology into the new one.
I think so, and I think that will happen because, I mean, that's one of the things Google are pushing for with their Android One, their new version of Android, which is, you know, meant for developing markets.
But yeah, I do think that, you know, we are reaching a platform saturation in the developing side. You're either one or the other, and then the other one's got a little bit of a market share, but there's only so many times you can actually recycle the old iPhone, product release. So we're all expecting the iPhone 6 coming out, and it's going to have a bigger screen, and et cetera, et cetera. That's going to be quite interesting to see whether that pushes that needle just up a little bit higher, or whether people are just saying, you know, I'm happy with what I've got just now. I don't need to invest in something else.
And I saw reports. Yeah, it is. And I saw a report this week or last week saying that a lot of people are just tired of waiting for the iPhone 6 and they're abandoning Apple and heading over to the Samsungs and the S5s or 5S. I can never remember, as I say. S5 is it? Whatever. You know, they're heading for the bigger screen.
All right. Yeah. And HTC, the HTC One MX or whatever it is, that's a lovely piece of kit. Beautiful piece of kit, beautifully manufactured. And again, you know, even the form factor is starting to sway over to the other side because people like that kind of sort of thing. It's strong, it's heavy built. You know, it looks like a solid piece, and the UI isn't too bad. But I guess we just have to see what Apple pulls out of the hat with this new one.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Android. Android Wear hardware review. So Android Wear is the version of Android for basically smartwatches. And this piece from Ars Technica is a long piece. It's 4 pages, and it goes into a lot of detail on the various different smartwatches and why you would want them and what they deliver, and one versus the other. So it's the G Watch versus the Gear Fit, and relative advantages of one over the other. The Gear Live is from Samsung. The G Watch is from LG. I don't know. What do you make of this, Theo? About first of all, the idea of a smartwatch. Do you think it's a thing? And then of them, are there any you've seen that might tempt you?
I'll take the second question first. You and I have had a bit of a joke about this. Is that I really do quite like the Motorola 360, because again, it looks like a watch, and you and I have joked about having it either as a monocle or as a pocket watch, which would be quite cool. For me, I'm sitting on the fence on this one. I would like a smart watch. I would like to see more of it, other than something that just does notifications or tracks your biometrics, because you and I have got smart bangles, as it were, and I'm getting quite into this just now, tracking my fitness that way. And this kind of sort of thing does me as it stands, and it's tied in with the app, and it's fine for what I need to use it for. I don't want to spend $250 on a watch that does more or less the same thing, unless it gives me a lot more functionality. I remember writing an article when the whole iWatch thing was kicking around a couple of years ago, 12 months ago. What I want to see out of the iWatch is a replacement for the iPhone. Almost the iPhone starts to shrink and becomes more redundant as you are able to embed more and shrink more components into something, a different type of form factor.
And yet what's happening is the iPhone is getting bigger.
Well, exactly, yeah. So yeah, because they're trying to I guess they're trying to sort of catch up with Samsung, and they've seen that everyone likes these big devices. I saw a really interesting graphic where it was literally the history of the mobile phone and the size, and of course the original ones with the old bricks were that size, and we did see this downward trend of where the old StarTAC and then the Sony Ericsson bought out tiny ones that size.
Right. Yeah.
And now they just seem to be getting larger and larger again. And I'm just wondering, at some point we'll get to that point where people just think, hang on, I'm holding something the size of this glass here, and I'm just going to have this. No, it's not going to work. And we're going to start to see it shrink again.
Yeah, one of the things about these smart watches is, if you look at mine here, they look kind of unwieldy on your wrist.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the old Dom Jolly sketches? I don't know if you got it. It was just literally, hello!
In the library.
Yeah, but instead it's just going, hello! And you and I talked about this earlier. I think a lot of these devices are version 1, and we're all being used for field testing. And then version 2 and 3 will actually improve on it. So I'm going to sit on the fence. It's a lot of money to have something just sit there after you've played with it a couple of weeks and not really found any compelling use for it.
Yeah, I mean the compelling case they're making for it is around notifications, and I can see that to an extent. Apple are going to go hard on the healthcare side of it as well.
Yeah.
When they bring theirs out, they've done huge investments in the healthcare side of things, both in terms of personnel and in terms of sensors and things like that. We'll wait and see what comes and see how compelling it is. See how well Tim manages to sell it to us.
Well, Tim, I read something today actually that they've hired an exec from Tag.
That's right, from Tag Heuer. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, we'll see. Do you want to? I mean, right there, you can see they're aiming for the top end of the market. They're not aiming for middle or low end. I mean, if they're going for the Tag Heuer as a Swiss-made thing, that they're going in at a high price for a high quality product, presumably, or that's the message they're putting out there anyway. It's Swiss made, it's high quality, it's well worth the €5 million tag that'll be on it.
Yeah, Well, in that case, they better not use me for field testing, because I expect it to be pretty spot on the first time round then.
Yeah, and well, you know, like all these things, well, Microsoft are always a version 3 company, and Apple have typically been a version 2 company. So yeah, I think the first smart watch, whatever that comes out, you know, would be nice to look at and let the early adopters pay the early adopter tax on it, and then when they come out with the proper version 2, it might be worthwhile looking at least.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, we'll keep going. Continuing on that kind of Android Wear kind of storyline, we saw that Google has launched their Android Wear companion app, which is an app you download onto your device, which allows you to set up your Android Wear device, your smartwatch basically, and configure it. No big surprise there. What did surprise me was, excuse me, that they've launched a special section in the Play Store for Android Wear applications, and there's 30-something applications in there. That wasn't that surprising, but it was some of the applications that were in there that surprised me. I can possibly see a reason to have Duolingo have their application in there, but I saw The Guardian in there. I mean, are you going to read The Guardian on your phone, or sorry, on your watch? I guess the use case there is for notifications of breaking news. That's the only real interesting one I can see there. And we'll keep going because time is flying by.
Sure.
And Microsoft and wearables. So apparently Microsoft are bringing out wearables as well, according to this article. And in fairness, this article is by Paul Thurrott, who's pretty well versed in the Windows sphere, knows his stuff. And the interesting thing about this speculative, admittedly, article is that Paul says that the device is going to be agnostic. It's going to be platform agnostic. So you can get this wearable device from Microsoft. It'll do your health stuff. It'll do your normal kind of watch stuff, I guess, as well. But it won't be confined to either Android or iOS. It'll work on either, and maybe Windows.
Bless
it's
them.
2 or 3% penetration. We don't worry too much about that. I know it's ours, but fuck it.
Yeah, I think Microsoft they have to play. They've got no choice, to be honest. Everyone else is pitching in, and I'd be interested to see how this the platform agnostic thing works out. Are you going to have to configure it yourself when you get it, so it's a blank slate when you buy it out the box, and you're going to sit there and play, or is it? It'll have to have some kind of.
I presume how it'll work is you download an app onto your phone, and the app can be on the Android store or on the iOS store.
Right.
And that you configure it that way. I assume that's what it is, but we'll have to wait and see. It's not out yet, but that would make the most sense to me.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, if it works with Android phones and if it works with iOS phones and it has that capability, then it might have some penetration, but it depends. I don't know. I think they've got no choice to enter the market. Whether anyone is going to do anything with it, I no idea. Yeah. I would probably say probably no.
Yeah. It's not going to take over.
No.
All right, we'll keep going. The next one, and it's still in the same kind of area. It's this, again, speculative article by Tim Bajarin, Understanding Apple's Wearable Strategy. And it's an interesting piece. It's quite a long, involved piece. And he talks about how he went to Disney World and saw how the little wrist strap or the wristband using RFID radios, etc., in Disneyland does things like it opens door locks, allows payment in restaurants, entrance gates in parks, all these kind of things. It all works completely flawlessly once you're within Disneyland and you just flash your little wristband wherever you go. It gets you into rides, it gets you to payments, it opens your hotel room, it does everything for you, and it all works off works basically off the fact that you have this one device on your wrist which is identified with you. And what Tim is saying in this article is he reckons, because Disney and Apple are so closely joined, that a lot of this thinking will have gone into the Apple wearable device that will come out in October. And a lot of the iOS devices, well, the newer iOS devices now are going to have the fingerprint reader on them. So you've got identification built into it right there. They announced that in iOS at the developer conference that they were going to open up the Touch ID APIs, so applications can start using the fingerprint reader for identification management purposes. So you'll be able to do things like payments, and PayPal will be able to use it, and so on and so on and so on. For me, when I saw the fingerprint reader coming out on the 5S last year when it came out first, it was the thing that struck me straight away about the fingerprint reader. It could do away with passwords for lots of sites. I've got a fucking ton of passwords on the apps on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't want them. I've got a password manager on my phone. I use 1Password. Great application. Manages the passwords. I've got 1,500 passwords in there. They're all complex passwords. 15 and more characters, all digits and uppercase and lowercase and symbols and the whole thing. If I can just manage it with my finger and not have to go through all that kind of rubbish, then that makes a lot of sense. We had this conversation earlier, Theo, yourself, myself, and I mentioned this, and the thing I was saying about it is it probably is Apple's strategy because it makes a huge amount of sense, but it's a very low barrier to anyone else getting in there.
Yeah, so like you were saying, I think once they do it, then everyone else will follow suit. But I think getting in there first is always the best strategy. And obviously Apple will probably do it right first time, I think, or certainly tie in as many vendors and applications into it as quickly as possible, so that the penetration is there. So Starbucks, for example, I can see that would be a massive consumer base to tap into if you just press that on your smartwatch, for example, and that's you already paid your dues for a coffee.
I assume there would be a Starbucks application on your phone, and it would be an in-app purchase. So everyone will get a little slice of the pie and be tied to your ID and the whole thing. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting if Apple include RFID in the watch, in some manner or form. I don't know how they will do that. We're still waiting to see if they do NFC. Although to be honest, NFC that's never really gone anywhere, and I think Apple would write.
I think they've thrown that out, and they're just going to use the Bluetooth LE.
Well, with iBeacon and things like that. Yeah. For a start, yeah. That's in which case, will a watch will Apple be able to tie in identity management to that kind of sort of functionality where, I don't know, you can authorize things from a distance, or again, like you were saying, you can unlock your house or unlock your car or start your car just as you're walking up to it because you are identified. I think it has got a massive amount of scope. Like you say, it's got a short time frame to make the adoption work. And
yeah, because even Samsung they have one phone with a fingerprint reader as well, and they have already opened up APIs on theirs. And as far as I remember, PayPal are one of the people using that, so they're already ahead of Apple actually in that score.
Apple makes it look beautiful, though. That's the thing. So. There's that distortion field coming down again,
It's all polished.
Yes, exactly. It's shiny. So it must be better.
And it's more expensive, so it's obviously better.
Yes, here's my money.
All right, we'll keep going. And we mentioned connected cars earlier. I saw this one. There's an automotive-grade Linux released for open source cars. I'm a bit dubious about this one. I mean, it talks about a Linux distribution, AGL, automotive-grade Linux. It's a first release, tailored for cars in the Internet of Things age. It's a collaborative project sponsored by the Linux Foundation, a host of partners from auto industry, communications, computing hardware, academia, and other sectors. The first release of the open source operating system appeared on the 30th of June and is available free online and it's based on Tizen. I don't know. I mean, as I said earlier, I think people are going to use the smart device they have with them to control a lot of the stuff in the car, and you don't really want to be tied to an OS in a car that you can't change very often. Sure, I know you could probably have downloadable updates for the car, but again, my car, as I said, is 6 years old, and I have no reason to change it. It's perfect. If I had a 6-year-old OS on it, even if it had been updated, the hardware to run the 6-year-old OS, you know, or the newer OSs now, it would be struggling because you know, you need your hardware to keep up with your software. So if you can run it off your smart device that you change more often, it makes a lot more sense to me. So I'm not sold on the idea of an OS for a car.
Yeah, so you got so the hardware thing is interesting because you know, iOS 8 has just launched, but they've already said, you know, if you're iPhone 4 and below, forget it. You know, and like you say, people change their cars at different times. You don't want to be forced to change your car because it's no longer compatible with the latest software. And then that in itself poses a problem, because then are you invalidating your insurance for not keeping up with the current times and things like that? You know, I can see a lot of not loopholes, but a lot of exploitation in things like that being taken advantage of. You know, for, you know, diagnostic software for the automobile manufacturing industry. Insurance for a start. I'm sure they will find some way of extorting more money from you because you've got an older car with an older OS, so they'll say it's not safe or that kind of sort of thing. And yeah, are you going to have to play this catch-up game for the connected car thing? So if we have this where cars are going to be talking to each other, you know, to relay information before it goes up to the cloud and back down, are there going to be incompatibility issues? And if there's a crash, are you going to be the weak link in the chain because you're on version 2 and someone else is on version 5? And I don't know. It's going to open up a can of worms. I'm with you on the thing. I'd rather plug this in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and run it from like that.
The only way I could see it really working is if you had swappable modules.
Yeah.
You know, if you could swap out some of the hardware from the car and put in more up-to-date hardware to run the OS, but you know, that's the same as buying a new phone.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, maybe I'm missing something. It's you know, I remember, and I shouldn't be saying this because it's hugely embarrassing. I remember back in the very early 90s when I was literally on green screen browsers, and I remember the first Mosaic browsers. And I remember one of the guys from the computer department coming over to me and saying, Tom, they've got this browser now that can embed sound and photographs. And I was like, why would you want that? So, you know, I don't necessarily have a good track record with these things, so maybe there's a very obvious use case there for
we are old men, aren't we? We're just a couple of old fogies. We're like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets, you know, just having a moan and a bitch at all the new guys below.
Oh, that was brilliant. Statler and Waldorf. I love the way they go, you know, that was fantastic, that was terrible, oh, it was okay, oh, it wasn't too bad, that was brilliant, that was terrible. Okay, we'll keep going. There's 2 more stories, and we've pissed on Microsoft's parade quite a lot this show, and this is a moment to praise them for some of the stuff they've done. In fairness, and they have their first annual Sustainable Subsidiary of the Year award, and it goes to Microsoft Finland. And there's a nice article there about Microsoft Finland and what they've done and what they've helped their customers to do and how they've helped the city of Helsinki keep emissions down, reduce the overall fuel consumption of the bus fleet, for example, by 5%, and so on and so on. Nice little article. Kudos to Microsoft and kudos to Microsoft Finland. But I thought what was interesting about this, not just the fact that Microsoft Finland did so well, but was the fact that the Microsoft Corporation had a competition to see which of their subsidiaries was the most sustainable. Because
Yeah,
that's not something I've heard of any other company doing.
right. Is this the first time that they've actually published this as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, yeah, kudos to them. I wonder if anyone else will actually pick up as well. Any other sort of manufacturer, platform manufacturer. It'd be nice to see maybe Google doing it or Apple doing it as well, for example.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Sorry?
Or Software AG.
Or Software AG. Well, I think we already do. Do you know our HQ in Darmstadt is actually one of these original built sustainable buildings. You should come out and see it. So it's all made with you know, natural materials and things. It was designed with that purpose in mind.
Nice.
And that was way back in, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it's it was fairly progressive back then. It's nice to see this kind of sort of thing happening. It should happen more often. For example, there's I think the PwC building in London was specifically designed to be as sustainable as possible. In fact, everything that it does is renewable. So all the energy that it produces is actually fed back in. The heat is circulated.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the electricity is used in a particular way. I think even the lifts, I think, have some kind of inertia system where the inertia is fed back into the pipeline. That would be a good one for you to actually see, and I could hook you up with a guy. Yeah,
I'd love to get a tour of that. I remember when they opened Terminal 5 in Heathrow, they talked a lot about the sustainable aspects of that as well, but it sounds like the PwC one has them well beat.
Yeah, I think it's won awards. What I can do is I can put you in touch with one of the partners for innovation there, and you could probably talk the ears off a donkey for that one. So.
Okay, good, please do. Last story then of the day is this one, and I thought this was nice. There's this thing, the ultra simple app that lets anyone encrypt everything. Story by Andy Greenberg in Wired.com, and basically it's this application called what's the name of it? MiniLock. MiniLock? Yeah, I think it's called MiniLock. And there it is, MiniLock. It's a browser extension for, and it's going to start off being a browser extension for Chrome. And basically, I'm not huge in cryptography and stuff like that. It's a very simple way, apparently, to do drag and drop public key cryptography on any document. And one of the big problems with public key cryptography is it's typically extremely hard to do. Whereas with this browser extension, it's going to be quite straightforward to do, literally drag and drop. And it uses, as I say, the whole public key infrastructure, the whole PKI infrastructure. Yeah. So it's highly secure. It's going to be open source. So the source is going to be published on GitHub first, before it's published, before the actual application is launched. It's going to be the code is going to be on GitHub, and the developer has a track record in the space, not a particularly good one, but that's more process than anything else. He's the developer of CryptoCat or CryptoChat. And he got lambasted when he launched that because there was a couple of gaping holes in it. But he fixed them very quickly, and it's now perceived as a good encryption tool. Right. And having gotten beaten up over that, he's now decided, well, with this one, he's going to do it on GitHub first before he launches it proper. So if there are any issues, it'll get fixed before it's launched proper. So this seems nice.
Would you use it? I think it's a killer question.
I think if I had a need to, I would. Because I don't really have a need to encrypt stuff right now that I can think of. But if I did, if it's open source, and if it's got a good name, then I'd be happy to use it.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I applaud the effort. I think it's great. I think for me is do I have, like you say, do I have a burning need to encrypt the stuff I have? How many people out there would, and rolling off the back of the whole NSA and Snowden thing, no disrespect, but frankly, we're a couple of old boring farts to the powers that be. We don't do anything that much worth warranting encryption anyway. But you know, where is he aiming this for? To be honest, you know, at the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's great to have it. It's good. It's you know, it's going to be on Chrome. It needs to go further than Chrome, I think, obviously. Would it be used in business, for example? Would would businesses use that as an extension to, on their browser to encrypt things, or would they go for the more traditional, well, enterprise, larger things?
I think they could quite easily, and for smaller businesses, it's open source, it's free, and it will work with Dropbox, which okay. Right there, that's quite compelling.
Yeah.
I can see as well. I mean, one group of people who have always been big users of cryptographic stuff are the NGOs and the people in what we'll call danger zones, I guess, and then people under repressive regimes as well, like for example, the Obama administration. Oh, did I say that? Sorry.
I can hear the black helicopters.
But we'll go with the Middle Eastern and some Southeast Asian regimes. I remember there was a lot of talk of people using tools like Twitter and Facebook during the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
This is a different use case, I guess, to a large extent, but still, I could see tools like this being useful in those kind of scenarios as well.
Yeah. Fair play to the guy.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the stories we have for this week. Thanks a million, Theo, for coming on the show. It's been fun. It's been great fun. It's been great fun. I'll have the show notes at on the event page in a few minutes, and I'll get this written up on the Green Monk site. I won't get it done this weekend because I'm heading off to Cordoba for the weekend, but I'll get it up on the Green Monk site on Monday. So it'll be up there with all the notes and formatted and links and the whole thing. So. Cool. Thanks everyone for coming on. Thanks for your interest, and if you're in the US, have a happy 4th of July. And
happy Independence Day.
We'll see you same time, same channel next week.